Hello, everyone, and welcome to Recipe for Reality. Another episode of Zach in his car driving while doing this. But hey, if you're just listening, then it doesn't matter to you. If you're watching with your eyes, there will be no face next to mine. I'll be staring at a blank screen, but I can still hear Zach's voice. Zach, let us know that you're there and on the other line, just to make sure.
Hi, I'm here.
There it is.
Yeah, this is what we do. You will see my face soon. I am going to be parked in just a little bit, but
Cool.
I can't look at Dylan and drive at the same time. So once I can stop looking at Dylan, I will turn my camera on. Be safe, kids. Be
Cool.
safe. Don't podcast and drive.
Wear a seatbelt. Do not podcast and drive. Or if you podcast and drive, be very, very careful. So a pretty big episode. I mean, we're not talking about any other shows this week. It's just Survivor.
Crazy episode.
Bachelor's over. But yeah, Survivor, very eventful and very uneventful all at the same time, because for the first time in I don't know how long, we did not see a single scene from a tribe's beach. Being the Ika tribe, we did not see a single segment of them except for during the challenge where, everyone was drowning. But yeah, we really didn't see much of their camp life. We got a lot of orange because Marianne did find a third of the Beware Advantage, did open it, and did say her phrase. We didn't get a lot of Jonathan at camp, but then when we saw the challenge, we got a ton of Jonathan, great challenge performance, probably the best ever in a tribal challenge for sure, and maybe the best challenge performance overall, even beating out so many individual challenges, so much so that Jeff brought it up after the challenge. And then we got perhaps the craziest pre-merge vote maybe ever, in the fact that Mike lost his vote because of his idol. Chanel risked her vote and then lost it because Omar also lost it. And then there were only 4 people voting, 2 of which were going to vote for Lydia, 2 of which were going to split between Mike and Jenny, but then Hai caught onto the plan, decided to make it a tie instead of splitting the vote, which led to a tie vote, a deadlock, because once they voted again, Daniel and Hai still stuck with their Lydia and Jenny votes. And then they had the choice to, kind of meet together to either send home Lydia or Jenny, or if they couldn't come up to it with a consensus, anyone who was not voted for, meaning the 2 of them, Hai and Daniel, plus Chanel and Mike, who still, even though they couldn't vote, were still eligible to go home, would draw rocks. And we've seen it, I think, 3 times in the history of Survivor where they were not able to come up with a decision and someone went home by a rock draw. And it's just such a really sad way to go out, having none of it be because you were a target or anything, but just being another option. And
but how else do you get out of that situation? How else do you get out of that situation when it comes to things like that?
Exactly.
Good on the producer's part for kind of forcing. I don't know. I think my one thought from this episode is that the game is now more interesting because 2 people who thought that they were playing the game really well, that being Daniel and Chanel.
2 people that we thought were playing the game really well as well. Like I had Daniel and Chanel at my number 1 and 2 last week. So like they definitely took a 180 for me as well.
I was gonna say they are certainly not up there for me anymore if I'm gonna give anything away. But what I like about where we've landed this week is that not only do we now know, like, hey, nobody is safe when it comes to things like that, and even when you think you're playing the game the best you can, you've got to watch out and you've got to be careful about the way that you plan things. Mm-hmm. We get to see things. I thought last season wasn't necessarily safe, but there was always an easy way to come to the resolution of like, all right, we need to get rid of so-and-so. Yeah. This time, it's never easy. We had an actual confrontation at a tribal that was beyond just like friendly conversation. We had someone like Hai put his foot down and really like say, I am not about to risk I'll draw rocks, but at the off chance that I stay, I'm not about to risk my integrity in the game and my own alliance. Right. Because now everyone knows that it's not my fault, it's everybody else's fault.
If Hai goes to rocks and goes home, it would have been the same as Lydia going home and him being by himself anyway. Like either Lydia goes home and he's all alone, or he just goes home by the rock. Either way, he's screwed unless Jenny goes home. So I really think, Daniel screwed himself by saying, I'm not drawing rocks. I'm not drawing rocks. And because of that, then Hai was able to take advantage of that and say, okay, well, if you're not going to go to rocks, then I will say I'll go to rocks because you're obviously going to have to change your vote because I'm not doing anything. Like it was like a square off showdown, and Hai got the higher ground.
I give Hai the most. I was going to say I give Hai got the high ground, if you if you could say. But I give
Nice.
High a lot of credit overall.
Yeah.
I think he handled the tribal best overall out of anyone there. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
Lydia and Jenny had a little less to handle because their names were on the line. But I even thought that Lydia handled it pretty well because being put in that situation, I mean, like, Jenny had nothing to offer. It was kind of throwing shit at the wall, hoping that it would stick. Whereas Lydia was like, you told me that we were going to be good, and we're not good, and that's, I don't know why you wouldn't vote to keep me, but it's not good for you either way. And I thought that Jenny was looking for something, and there was nothing to grab.
Yeah, and we have to look at like just the overall numbers, because if Mike doesn't lose a vote and if Chanel doesn't lose a vote, it's an easy 4-2 vote and Lydia goes home easily. So that should have been where like Jenny even chimed in and said, hey, the four of us were going to vote together, and because they don't have votes, if they did have votes, though, Lydia would be going. So do you want to listen to the majority of the tribe? That's why I don't get, and this is where I'll fault Chanel. When Daniel asked Chanel, who do you want to go home? Obviously, Chanel was like, I don't have a vote. It's not my choice. But Chanel should have been like, Jenny, or should have said Lydia, because the plan was for 4 votes to go to Lydia. It's just that they didn't have 2 of those 4 votes. Chanel should have put her foot down and said, we, as a majority of the tribe, meaning me, you, Mike, and Jenny, want to get out Lydia. So, like, that's the majority. I think the problem, though, is that Daniel said he wouldn't go to Rocks. It would have been an easy call, but then High wouldn't have budged. I think High really took advantage of Chanel, Daniel, and all their blunders. I honestly think the people who did the least, to get themselves in trouble are Mike, Lydia, and Jenny. Because I don't think Jenny necessarily did anything wrong, and Lydia didn't do anything wrong. They're just the 2 weaker members of the tribe. And Mike didn't do anything wrong because, he has no vote until he gets that idol connected. It's really Chanel who made the blunder of risking your vote in the first place. When there's Zach.
Base reveal.
He's finally
base reveal. Welcome to my Ford Escape. Welcome to my Ford
Escape,
everyone. But yeah, I'm here to.
Yeah, but once Chanel risked her vote, I was like, you are the one person who needs a vote tonight, because Mike doesn't have one. If you keep your vote, there's no Rocks, there's no tie, and then Daniel, Chanel, Mike, and Jenny are a 4-strong unit, and High's the outsider, because now, who's the outsider? It's probably Chanel, and it's probably Daniel, because Lydia and High are tight, and Mike, because he doesn't have a vote, everyone's going to be fighting over Mike's vote, because Jenny's also gone.
I think if it's anyone, it's probably Daniel. I actually think Chanel, and again, this is a little bit of like a who's in a better spot. I think Daniel is in a worse spot than Chanel, only because Chanel really does have the fact that, with no vote, her word isn't really worth much to the greater amount of people. Daniel, on the other hand, he already screwed up with Mike earlier in the day. He then really ruins things with Mike by taking Jenny out instead of Lydia, when the idea was literally all he had to do was say, let's go to Rocks, and then he kind of wipes his hands clean and says, like, I did what I thought was best for me.
Yeah, the only problem is that Daniel could go home if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like, Daniel, if he draws Rocks, has a 25% chance of going home, which then makes him look even dumber. But I get what you're saying. Like, I think that the odds of 4 people drawing Rocks, the odds are much better than in the past seasons where it's been like, 3 people drawing Rocks or 2 people drawing Rocks. You know what I mean?
Now, here's the thing, though, is I think Daniel at this point, Daniel is the best shot of going home out of anybody right now, because I don't see a world in which High and Lydia fully trust him. Chanel cannot go to Mike at this point and really join up with him, because again, it's you now suffer from the fact of, well, Daniel's going to say anything. So if I'm Chanel, I go to High and Lydia and say, let's do this thing and get rid of Daniel.
I honestly think Chanel and Mike would be okay, though, because I think Chanel didn't do anything wrong for Mike or Jenny. All she did was risking her vote and losing her vote. I think if anything, Lydia and High are going to be upset with Chanel.
It's not that I think Chanel and Mike aren't going to be okay. If I'm Chanel, I'm going, there's a clear majority here now. It's High and Lydia, so I'm going to go join with the majority. That's the obvious thing to do. That's what I would do, at least if it were me, right? I would see that there's a majority, and I would join up with the majority, especially when your name just got thrown under the bus. You got to do some damage control, and that's where I think Daniel is in the worst spot. He threw names out and had nothing to back himself up, and he still has nothing to back himself up.
Even leaving the tribal, it seemed like Daniel was now jumping ship with High and Lydia, but all it takes is Chanel and Mike to tell them the truth back at tribal, and High and Lydia say, oh yeah, screw you, Daniel. I really don't know how Daniel recovers from this, unless the one option is for Daniel to go back to camp, talk to Chanel and Mike and say, listen, this was the 3. High and Lydia are still a tight 2. None of us are really that tight, but that's a tight duo. We need to split them up. That is, I think, Daniel's only angle, or outing Mike's idol to the whole
I'll be
tribe. I
shocked
think
if
one of
Daniel
those two
comes
is
out of this.
yeah, one of those two is the only move Daniel can make. Either go full-fledged villain, out Mike's idol, and really team up with High and Lydia, or go back to Chanel and Mike and try to make amends and try to just split up High and Lydia again. Because now you would have the majority because Chanel gets a vote back, and if Mike activates his idol, Mike gets his vote back, which we know is probably going to happen soon because I don't think Mike is now going to go by Daniel's, suggestion to not play his,
I really
phrase.
do
I think Mike is going to activate his idol.
Daniel is kind of out.
Yeah,
I think. Well, and let's talk about that for a second too, because I couldn't decide, and I rewatched the episode before we talked. I really can't decide how I feel about Mike not revealing that he's got some sort of that he's got something to do with the idol to anybody else. Mainly because first of all, Marianne for everything in the world. I love her and adore her. But I thought that was such a weird, and I thought that she handled her story well enough. I actually thought that she did enough of a job, kind of like really like she is quirky and out there enough that it doesn't seem, like last season it was very obvious when someone had an idol power. This time I was like, oh, you know what? Good for fucking her for
her
really,
bunny in a mailbox story or whatever it was.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. She did a good job selling that.
I think it's weird. It's weird for Mike to not kind of show like, hey, I'm also, because if it were me, first of all, if you're waiting for someone to talk, then somebody else might be waiting for someone to talk. So if I've got that idol and most people in my tribe know, I have to say, like, why would I not just say the thing?
Well, it's because Daniel convinced him that,
and it gives you your.
Well, Daniel also convinced him that if he doesn't say his phrase, then the other two idols can't activate themselves. So right now, the way the logic was that Daniel convinced Mike that if you don't say your phrase, then Marianne can't get that idol, and Marianne still loses a vote. So it's more of a penalty against Marianne, but then it's also penalizing yourself. Yeah, I don't know why Mike. Now that Daniel's severed those ties, I think Mike now should just say his phrase. Hope, because we saw from the preview, the very first episode with the montage, we know Tori gets the other one. So if Tori gets it, then Tori, Mike, and Marianne activate their idols. I think he's going to have to do that now because Daniel is not someone that he's going to trust.
Without that idol, I mean, we just saw it because of that. Mike now loses his number one ally and no longer feels like he has another ally. So I think let's jump into rankings because unfortunately we are one last thing. A time crunch today.
Yeah, I do want to say one last thing too. Was also just like I think you have to look at the editing also, and I think Daniel and Chanel both made really big blunders this week. Chanel not protecting her vote, and Daniel, everything he was doing at Tribal. But I think the edit definitely made us more anti-Daniel, whereas I still think Chanel can bounce back. I just don't know about Daniel. But let's look at the rankings from last week. Again, I took a little bit of a bigger swing. I had Jenny second to the bottom, so I got 14 points because I heard 14 out of 15. Zach had her 9 out of 15, which is still pretty low. So like we both got a chunk of points for having Jenny lower. But look at who we had at the top. Daniel and Chanel were my number 1 and 2, and Zach's number 3 and 4. So we were very big on the two of them. And this week, that's what the game just changes that fast. You know what I mean? So people who are on the top can now be on the bottom. But let's go through our rankings. And at the end, I want to kind of, because the way we do our rankings is we rank them based on this episode and who's safest at the moment. But at the end, Peridium just put out his winner prospects. I want to kind of at the end reevaluate since your preseason winner pick. Your preseason winner pick was Zach. Mine was Tori, and I think one of those is definitely not going to happen because he's out. But the other one, I don't think anyone from that blue tribe is going to win at this point because we saw nothing of them last week. No. It's just if they were going to win, we would have seen at least 2 minutes of them at their beach. So I think at the end we should reevaluate and say who our new winner picks are at this stage of the game and kind of roll with that to the end. But let's start with our rankings. At number 1, I'm going to do this because I think I want to award this person for his performance in this episode, and B, I think if that tribe loses, there's no way he goes home, and that is Jonathan. And actually, at number 2, I have Lindsay, and the reason is because those are the 2 strongest people on the tribe. Lindsay was pulling people through the water too, but Jonathan really was the one commanding that tribe, pulling Omar and Marianne through. And if they lose, Marianne doesn't have a vote right now, and Omar doesn't have a vote right now because Omar risked his vote and lost it. So it's going to be Lindsay and Jonathan's decision if they go to tribal. They're not going to turn on each other, and it's going to be basically them choosing, are we going to vote Marianne out or Omar? assuming Marianne doesn't activate her idol. So I think Jonathan and Lindsay are definitely safe. They are on the strongest tribe. I don't think that tribe's going to lose again. I think Mariah was their weak link. Now that Mariah's
Yeah.
out, they're going to keep, barreling on through. They're really, really a tight unit. But Jonathan deserves that number one spot just solely based on his MVP performance. So I'm going to go 1 Jonathan, 2 Lindsay. What do you have at number 1?
We don't need to hash it out because I've got Jonathan up at 1 and Lindsay down at 2 as well. Only because in the same realm, I really can't. I know that the preview has like Jonathan pissed me off, blah blah. You can't get rid of him right now, especially after that.
Yeah.
You can get rid of him late, like closer to the merge or like right as the merge happens. But I just think it would be foolish. And I agree. I really don't ever see them going to tribal again unless there's a massive hit. But the other thing is they have less people to worry about, and because they have less people to worry about, the beauty now is they don't ever have. They know how their team dynamic works now, and they can really like dig into that. And I think that the other two are at more of a risk because they don't have votes right now.
To speak on to speak on the notion of the preview, I think it's a red herring only because like. Jonathan is someone who, even if he does something that pisses you off, that's perfect. Because if you're looking at Omar's perspective or Lindsay, if Jonathan pisses you off, that's even better because now he's going to win you challenges. And then when you get to the merge, if he's pissing people off, you can even take him to the end to win challenges, be a meat shield, and not win. Yeah, but I do think Jonathan is playing a really, really good social game and honestly a good strategic game.
Agreed,
that if anyone of this archetype, like this Aquaman-like physique, could win the game because they're always targeted at the merge. I think he actually could make a run because he's very well acquainted in his tribe. Who do you have at number 3, Zach?
So at number 3, I've got Drea. I think Drea of the Blue Tribe, they literally can't do anything without her. That's how I feel at this point. Roxroy, Tor. I mean, if they have anybody else in their corner, it's probably Tori. But Roxroy is so unuseful. Swati, Swati is useful in some regards, and I think that Romeo comes for me. And again, he's not right following at 4 for me, but Romeo is the other person I feel as though just has no one's looking at him. But I feel like without Drea, you can't win a single challenge. True. And that's pretty apparent. So I think that for me, she comes in so high, maybe a little bit too high, but I think only because I don't see a reason for her to go.
True. At number 3, I have High. Speaking of High, he's high on my list, because he really did completely read the tribe right. He saw that Chanel was being Izzy when Daniel said he feels safe and comforted by Mike and Chanel. He was like, something's off on that because he's supposed to be aligned with me and Lydia. He really read the room really well and really made that tribal his and kind of got the power from going bottom to the top. Like him and Lydia now, I think, run that tribe, and it's going to be people like Mike, Chanel, and even Daniel trying to still please them rather than team up. So I really do like High's positioning, and he's been getting good edits. He got a good strategic edit this week.
They really like him.
He got a great social edit because of his big story with being a vegan and trying the crab. I think he's going to just continue to be a compelling presence on the TV. So he's my number 3. My number 4, just because of what you said, is Romeo, because I think no one's looking at him on the tribe as the weak link. I mean, he's the weakest one in the challenges, but that doesn't really seem to matter because, they're going to keep sitting people out anyway. He can keep sitting out for at least one more challenge, and I just think he's the one who's the lone wolf. He's not really aligned with anyone, but he's not, I think it's almost more of a threat to be a buddy-buddy with someone right now, just like High and Lydia were. So I think being kind of on his own, but also being well-acquainted with everyone is going to be good for him. So he's my number 4.
High is my number 4, and then Romeo is number 5. Again, I'm really just trying to think strategically who places well with certain people. And it's really Romeo doesn't have a single eye on him. High now for the way performance at Tribal. I know I disappeared, but I'm here. A High for his performance at Tribal. I think just out of that tribe in general, he's in the best position. He now leads with integrity and holds power over people because there's not a single tribe member who he can look at and go, he can look at them and go, you stab me in the back, you stab me in the back, you stab me in the back. I run this show. The only reason Lydia's not up there with him at 5 is because her name's already been out there. She's been written down on the paper. And if Daniel and Chanel really wanted to do something together, they could just write Lydia's name down to even the playing field. I don't think that they're gonna do that, but that's the only reason she's not up there at 5. And then Romeo's down at number 5 for me for what you said. Nobody's looking at him. Not a single person's got him on their radar. The only reason he's not up there higher than someone like Drea is mainly because he's a little more expendable than her because he sat out of a challenge. It's the only thing that I can give to him. Also, I just want to commend everyone on both of those tribes for getting through that and not drowning. Because and we didn't really talk about it, and we don't have to spend too much time on it. That, to me, I was like, I really don't know how they're going to do this. And the fact that, again, props to you, CBS, for not fucking making them suffer. Because I thought I was like, they're really going to, they're going to run themselves into the ground. And it was nice to see them actually get to play the game.
If this was like an old school season, like, I don't know if Jeff would have called the challenge and had him come in. He would have been like, all right, well, we'll be out here for hours, because that's what it used to be like back in the day, which is why when they say this version's harder, this version is like 20 or 14 days shorter than the regular Survivor version, and B, you're getting to skip an aspect of
it's harder because it's quicker. It's harder because you have to think faster.
Yeah, but I really don't think this is hard in terms of physical toll. You can
tell. Who's your 5?
My number 5 is Omer, because I think while that tribe has only 4 people, I don't think they're going to tribal. And if they go to tribal, I do think Jonathan and Lindsay do vote out Marianne over Omer. I think Omer is very well acquainted, and he's getting a really good edit. Like, he had a lot of screen time. Obviously, he went on the voyage, and he didn't look like the dumb one, because he was thinking, like all the audience, well, Chanel's got to protect her vote. So, of course, I'm going to risk it, because there's just no risk, all reward. But he didn't realize that Chanel wouldn't read the room well and not protect her vote. So I think Omer does not look bad after that. If anything, he's just going to be more upset at Chanel, which could play into later on in the merge or something. But I think Omer's fine. I think that 4 is really tight. I think Jonathan would want to pick Omer over Lindsay even, but I think those 3 would band together over Marianne. So I really think he's okay. And he has the best wardrobe on the island. So
I agree. At 6, I have Lydia. And again,
me too.
The only reason she doesn't follow right behind High is because her name is written down versus someone like Romeo, who's never had his name written down. And I just think that honestly, it's because they are the majority in the tribe right now. They are 2 against 3 individuals who now are scrambling to try and figure out what their next move is, and they have power where others do not. Mike still has no vote. Chanel now has no major ally in Daniel, and Daniel has literally no one. So I think that the 2 of them hold the strength in the tribe, and that's really going to come. And also, she's very much not expendable. She helps and runs a lot of challenges for them. Yeah. And I think that it's telling that she's the one who sits out, and then shit goes to hell. And Daniel too, but I think Daniel has less of a bear.
Daniel's also missing his arm, basically. But yeah, I have her at 6. I have Mike Turner at 7. I don't know why I typed his last name too, but Mike Turner's my 7. I think he's getting the most screen time. He got the most confessionals over the first 3 episodes, but also, just aside from the edit perspective, I think he is still well positioned. He lost his main ally, and I think this is going to be kind of like a Romeo thing, where Romeo losing Zach was the best thing for Romeo's game, whereas I think here Mike losing Jenny is almost the best thing for Mike's game, because now he's a free agent. And I think, yes, he was one of the people who raised his hand saying, I didn't vote, but I think they're going to be more upset about Chanel for lying than they will Mike, because Mike just didn't say anything at all. Mike only told Daniel and Jenny. So I think, and Daniel told Chanel, obviously, but I think Mike is going to be fine. I think Mike is still the provider of the tribe, as much as Chanel said she is. Like, I think Mike is still the guy that people are going to go to for fire. Even in challenges, they're going to look at him as like the strength. So I still think he's going to be okay. Even if he doesn't have a vote, I think if anything, that would entice High and Lydia to kind of snatch him up. Right. And if he does get his vote and he gets his idol, he's even safer, because as soon as these idols are activated, Mike, Marianne, and Tori are going to go shoot up on the list. So
I think for me, so at 7, I have Omer. 8, I'm just going to give you 3 in a row right now, because I'm trying to maximize time as I'm looking at the clock. At 7, I have Omer. At 8, I have Tori. At 9, I have Mike. And we haven't really talked about Tori, but you just talked about Omer and Mike. Omer,
she's my 8. She's my 8, so she's right there.
Yeah, at 7, I have Omer because of everything that you said, and I just think he's a little bit safer than Marianne. And I'm doing the thing now where my bottom three, there's going to be one from each tribe, just because there's got to be.
I didn't do that this week. I didn't think about that.
Oh no, I did it for me because I think there's a little bit of safety in that. And he just, again, I think he's got Lindsay and Jonathan on his side. So even in the case that he's got no vote, it's still 2 against 1. They're not going to worry about that. Tori exists at 8 for me because of the fact that, again, she's about to get this idol, and she's not safe if it's not all activated. But at the chance that it is activated, she's got a really, really sweet spot in that tribe. She wins a lot of challenges for them. She's a great communicator with them. She's not getting a ton of screen time right now. No one on the blue tribe is, as we've already said. But she's certainly the person making the least amount of waves, and she's 180 from that first episode. So I give her props for that. And then Mike is only above Chanel and Daniel for me because Hai and Lydia can use him to their advantage. They can't really use Daniel to their advantage. They can with Chanel, but I would be weary. But with Mike, who now has no allies, he's going to be a lot easier to kind of snap up.
Yeah, my 8 is Tori for similar reasons. I think also because, being the first target is always probably the best, because then, paranoia sets in, and then they always pivot a target. It was always this person, then it was this person later in the day. So I think Tori is nice because she's now kind of like the primary target. But as the day goes on, there's always going to be a second target that emerges. I think she'll be okay. And because, as we saw with the preview of the season at the very first episode when they're doing that little montage, they say the phrases are back, and she's saying the phrase, which means she's most likely going to find the idol. We don't know if that's confirmed, but it's pretty certain. And then 9, I have Drea. I have her much lower than you, only because, again, I'm a little worried only because they planted those seeds a few episodes ago about her being this person that we could blindside. But again, you're right. If they get rid of her, they're kind of screwed in challenges.
They're screwed.
But these challenges have proven that she really hasn't been much of an asset anyway, only because Roxroy seemed to be the one who was the asset in terms of throwing the beanbags up on the planks or whatever. Like, I don't think Drea was the person leading that challenge, only because that challenge was also just so tough, and no tribe has a Jonathan like the Orange tribe has a Jonathan, quite literally. So I think she's still going to be needed for challenges, so I agree with that. And then at 10, only because I think she could activate her idol this week, and I think Orange is just that safe. She's the lowest Orange person, but I still have 4 other people below her, and that's Marianne. I just think, yes, she could go home, and she's probably going to go home if Orange loses, but I just can't see a world in which Orange loses because of who's left in the game and just how the tribes are stacking out. I was proven wrong before, but I really think not every challenge is going to be a puzzle challenge that's blindfolded and that Jonathan happens to have to do. So I think she's going to be okay. So I have Marianne at 10.
At 10, I have oh my God! Hold on. I'm doing it off of memory, and I can
tell you who you have left. Do you want me to tell you who you have left?
Tell me who I have left.
From Orange, you still have Marianne. From Green, you still have Chanel and Daniel, and from Blue, you still have Roxroy and Swati.
Swati was 10 for me. Swati is 10 for me, and again, it's only because I know I'm usually very low on her, and the only reason I'm not is because Roxroy has done absolutely nothing, and he exists and he does nothing for them. So he
won that challenge for them, though. He was throwing the bags up. No, was he not? I don't know. He's not doing as much at camp, though. They're all getting annoyed by it. Okay, that's
what I mean. Is that, and again, you can exist without Roxroy. You can't really exist without Drea. And at 11, I have oh my God, hold on. At 11, and the only reason she's not in my bottom 3 is because I want one from each tribe in the bottom 3 is Chanel. Is Chanel. And that is, I'll talk about it when we talk about winner picks.
She's my 11. She's my 11 as well, only because, like you said, I don't think she's the worst positioning on Green, but again, she lost her one ally. Her one ally turned against her, so she really is a free agent, but I don't think she has as much agency as Mike does because she was caught in a lie, and I think that's a big thing. And now she has people on the other tribes, like Omar, upset about her because he lost a vote because of her. I think she has a lot to bounce back from, but at the same time, she's not being shown as negatively as Daniel, to the point where I think the edit still is kind of rooting for her. I don't think she's necessarily a villain. I just think she made one move but they did kind of approach it from a I gotta go big or go home type aspect, which I kind of like. It's almost like you're kind of rooting for her to take these big risks, even if they're not going to pay
Right.
off. So like, I still like Chanel. I still think she's in danger, but I don't think she's in the most danger. And then at number 12, this is where I put Roxroy, only because the preview is very much like the Blue Tribe getting mad at Roxroy, which is always makes me think that that person's going to be okay. And I think just in this tribe dynamic, I actually thought he was the person who helped them win the challenge. So like, I think he is more of an asset than we like to believe. But again, his screen time is so low, and he annoys people. Like, he could very well be an easy boot on that tribe. But I do think next to Drea and Tori, I think he is still more valuable in challenges than Romeo even and Swati. So I have him at 12. So who do you have at 12 of your bottom three?
So at 12, I have Marianne. She's
Okay.
at the top of the bottom because, again, I think she's their easy boot. But she's got an idol. If that idol is activated, she's safe.
Yeah.
She's not safe, but you know what I mean. And there's something about Marianne that I still think they're giving her a very good edit to be a winner.
Yeah.
And that keeps kind of playing in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's such an obvious boot that it would be too obvious for her to go home. And I also just don't see the Orange Tribe losing.
Right. I agree.
And that for me is big. Like, I just and she's only there because I want someone from each tribe there. I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah. That is a good strategy that I forgot about.
It's okay.
At number 13,
I just think that like she's only there because she has to be.
Yeah. At number 13 for me, I have Swati. I think she's the most vulnerable on blue, only because, you know, we saw a lot of her saying, I want to target Drea right after she agreed to a women's alliance. Again, I think she's just overplaying. And if this week she survives, I think she'll be okay. Because I think this week, I really do see blue losing. But at the same time, I don't know who the obvious boot on blue is. Because I think it could be Tori, it could be Drea, it could be Swati, it could be Roxroy. The only person I don't see going home on that tribe is Romeo. But at the same time,
Agreed.
I think they're setting her up either for downfall or to become like the mastermind villain of the season. And I just don't know, because we didn't see anything from them this week. I'm just so lost on blue that I'm just putting a lot of them at the bottom. Just kind of risking it, because at 14 I have Daniel, only because he's very obviously on the bottom. Whereas like even Swati and Roxroy, I don't know. Whereas Daniel, I know he's on the bottom, and his tribe showed this week that they are weak enough to lose a challenge. And honestly, he's probably the weakest member on the challenge. I was talking, Landon and I were watching it, my roommate Landon, and we were like, wait, Daniel's sitting out of like every challenge. And Landon brought up a good point. He's like, he's a good presence, he's smart, but like, does he offer anything in challenges? And he really doesn't. I think Lydia, Daniel, and even who's the other one on that tribe? No, okay. Chanel, High, and Mike do a good job in challenges. But like those two, Daniel and Lydia, don't offer as much to the challenge. And Lydia herself has proven more in the challenge with that blindfold challenge than Daniel has. So I think they can even use that against him. I really think he's in danger. And I think he took a complete 180, and the edit itself really pummeled him. They were like, he fucked up. So I have Daniel at 14.
Yeah,
again, he could bounce back, but who knows?
But 13 for me is Roxroy, and we've already talked about it. I think it's a little less of a red herring than you do, but again, not by much.
Right.
And I just don't see what Roxroy has to offer to the tribe in the long term. And then 14, it's Daniel, because it has. I mean, I really can't see a bounce back for him. Could it happen? For sure. I don't see. I don't see the path. And normally you can see the path, and I'm like, you really got to fool a lot of people, my guy, and they know you're a lawyer. They know what you got now.
This is normally where we would see a tribe swap also in a normal season, like when after a few votes have gone, after a few good votes have gone through to see like maybe some people are on the bottom. The tribe swap is really a potential for them to rise to the top and kind of form new allies. But in these post-COVID seasons, at least these first two, 41 and 42, he made it very clear from the beginning to the audience there are no tribe swaps. You know, they're in their tribes still to merge, and I think that's honestly where someone like Daniel and Chanel and even like Mike would really excel in a normal season of Survivor. But because
they would have the ability.
They don't want to like swap up all the tribes and stuff, which I get. Like, it just makes it a lot harder when you are on the bottom of your tribe, which is why they're taking, getting rid of people's votes when they find idols and all this stuff. But it's getting a little much with losing all the votes, because if Orange goes to tribal, there's only 2 people voting, and even then
they're screwed. Well, we've seen this already. We've seen that already.
Yeah, say if Jonathan uses the shot in the dark, then like they're kind of screwed, because Hi, Ryan. Jonathan, if he uses a shot in the dark, he loses his vote, and then Lindsay becomes the only vote on her tribe. Like, how crazy would that be if Orange comes down to one person voting? So, I know you got to go soon, but
Let me give you
yeah,
let me give
your
you my
winner
winner pick
picks. Yes,
so
go ahead.
then I can vote.
Yep.
All right. I'm really taking a gamble. I think my winner pick is Chanel, and I'm going to tell you why.
Wow. Okay. Tell me why.
So I'm drawing from a little bit from the episodes and also from her social media presence.
Okay.
Chanel is really like on social media particularly, she's really thriving and really engaging with the fan base. And someone who also did that very well was Erica. And I may be like just like a little bit of recency bias, but I feel like Chanel is being set up, even though I have her low this week, I really feel like Chanel is being set up for a comeback story. Yeah. You know, sure, she might have pissed Omer off, but she said, like, I'm really trying to get the best vote possible. And that was before they knew kind of what was about to happen. They, you know, they don't know that by risking your vote, like they don't know, like, risk it to get those two votes is better than really just protecting your vote depending on who you are. So I really think that she's getting a lot of airtime. She's getting a lot of confessionals. And I really even feel like they're saving her because normally we get a good shot of and story of them on the summit. And we got nothing from both her and Omer this week, which makes me think they're really trying to savor the moments they have with her so that they can really shoot her. And I think she's got enough of a pull that by the time they get to that merge, she's just got to make a pass this week for me. Yeah. If she makes a pass this week, I actually think she's in a good spot. My runner-up, and the reason I didn't pick her is just because I think she's actually a little bit in more danger because she's got no vote, is Marianne. Marianne was my second, and I really only went without. I didn't go with her because I think that she's a little too easy to pick off right now. Yeah, that's my only reason.
I have my runner-up is Lindsay, only because I think in that tribe, Jonathan and Omar are like the two, like he said, he's my meat shield, he's my brain shield. But guess what? Lindsay, she has both of them as her both brain and meat shield. Like she's got both of them in front of her, and the three of them are going to be working together. And I really think Lindsay later in the game can take advantage of that. If Omar becomes a big strategic threat and Jonathan becomes a big physical threat, I think she could slide through, and she's getting good content. This week, Jonathan, while he did have a good challenge performance, didn't get a confessional, and usually the winner gets a lot of except for last year. Last year was an anomaly, but I think like this year, like Lindsay gave us a perspective after they voted out Mariah. She like had the confessional where she was like, things are going well at camp and we're all together and we're all strong. Like the reason they gave her that, I think she's going to really be a good presence. But my winner pick, I think because he kind of took control this week and he's been getting great personal content, great strategic content, is High. I just think he seems like the most well-rounded, that if I have to bet on someone to go far and win it, I think High has everything it takes from strategy to also likability to physical. So I really think he's my winner pick right now, just based on what we've seen. But again, strong winner picks early on. We both had Shan last year or this early on, and Evie being like the two that we were like, it's going to probably be one of them. And then later in the game, we were thrown for a loop. So anything can happen. But Zach, you got to run. So why don't you plug yourself and where you can find you, and then we'll head out.
You know where to find me. You know where to find me down there. I'm actually about to go rehearse for Hunchback at Rhino Theater in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. Come watch me be some Quasimodo action. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be tons of fun. And at some point, if you look me up on any of my socials, you can find the link for tickets there. Dylan, I'm going to run now. Love y'all so much. And we'll find out tonight what the cards hold.
Yep, I'm gonna let Zach go and then just say a few more things for the channel. So thanks, Zach. I'll see you later. So before we go, I just want to say that coming up later on the channel today, actually right before this, I dropped my most recent episode of Picture This with Chad Webb, where we went through every single Best Picture nominee of this past Oscars, all 10 of them. That's right. And it ended up being like a 3-hour video, but it was really, really awesome, just discussing all those movies and talking about the Oscars themselves. And then next month we are going to be doing my birth year, 1998. For my birthday, because my birthday is next month, and we will be premiering our first episode of Draft Day, which is a draft-based movie show, which I'm hoping to have a lot of guests on throughout the next coming months. But otherwise, stick around here, and you can see everything from Survivor to Big Brother to when it starts again, The Bachelorette. All those shows will be discussed here on Recipe for Reality. Otherwise, you can follow me here at Dylan _Randazzo at Twitter and the Dill Pickle Movie Network to see more videos from across totally different genres and themes and topics. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.